want some of that cool air to come in here. It's hot as hell. But this is a fairly typical thunderstorm coming in. I guess I picked a good day not to be up on the hill, being a big giant lightning rod in that excavator today. And I had some saw stuff to clean up and details to get through, and one of them was that Husqvarna 390xp, which I never did get running. I found it had more issues. It was a can of worms kind of a saw. So I think it's pretty apropos this storm comes in. And I've got a 390 that has gone lean on the fella. And I think this is a perfect time to show the quickest way to debug a 390, because very rarely does anything major go wrong with those. And when they go lean, it's usually either the base gasket blew out or the intake boot has been ripped. So, but I'll show you really quick after the storm develops a little more how to test a 390 and debug it in 15 seconds. One of the issues I've been dealing with in the shop, because that's what I want to deal with, is this is an old, like, I don't know, 67 or 68 Mercury inline 6. They call it the 950. It's a 95 horse inline 6. And over the years they've made a whole bunch of variations on the theme of those inline 6s. And this is kind of like one of the earlier ones. Well, a lot of parts are no longer available. And where I got the boat, obviously they had run into that because they put a generic starter motor in, and when I first got it, it wasn't engaging, and when it did engage, it wouldn't release. What I found was they had basically bent the bracket. You can see some remnants still left, and there was no way it was going to work. So I basically shipped it up with a nut and a washer and got to where there's some engagement up there, and it seems to work okay. But the original motor, starter motor, used to sit in this little bracket right here, and also the starter solenoid was mounted to that bracket. So what I've done is I've taken a die grinder, typical hilltop saw shop style, opened up the holes. Well, these two mounting studs are close enough that I can mount it up underneath that. I think the message of this is, if you're going to get into these old motors like this, where parts often are not available, that kind of innovative mindset is required. Let's go look at the storm. I think the storm is beginning to develop. Well, this is going to be sort of different. I've got two saws, one that I've really kind of been interested to check out and see what it's like based on my experience with that little JonCutter top handle. That was a fairly good saw, pretty much out of the box. I had to do some little modifications so it would keep the bar stable, and I did a video on that. But based on how well that one ran, you know, the first thing that came to my mind is, what about the bigger saw? Because I got to tell you, if the bigger JonCutters for that kind of price run as good out of the box as that top handle, that is a very, very useful and interesting saw. So this is the JonCutter, the 58cc one, and I guess some people actually do videos that are called unboxing videos. Well, I guess this is an unboxing video. So you have these to protect some, a mixing bottle. I've actually used these things. Comes with a small toolkit. Comes with a manual. This is the G5800 version, not the 45. The 45 is the one I originally wanted, but it's sold out, so the 58 is close enough. Oh, look at this. That's a first. And there is the saw. The first thing to do is to check and see if it has arrived unscathed. That's soft enough that, believe it or not, that's probably going to come back around. So I've been more focused on trying to do things like hay and the new building, and just kind of inching along. So chainsaws have sort of fell to the back, and so I kind of need a little jolt to get going again. And I have a hunch this saw right here might be exactly that jolt. I'm actually kind of excited to see how this one works. I really am. You know, this kind of falls into that whole sales category of understanding emotional ups and downs. I expected nothing out of that little top handle, and I got a whole lot more than I expected. So of course I was a happy guy. And conversely, I expected a lot out of some of the other saws and was very disappointed, which is why you don't see them on the video channel. Oh, look at this. Huh. It's got one of those spring assisted pull starts. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is it's really not that heavy. Third thing is the bar stud is bent. Hopefully not broken in the case. So I think we're going to have to look at that because that looks really bent. I'm really looking forward to this damn thing. I hope it's not bent to the point where I can't fix it. I hope it didn't bust the case. When you see them bent like that, oftentimes the case is shot too. Okay. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was. And I did not crack the case, which, by the way, is a really nice looking aluminum case. So I think I'm going to leave it right where it is. I'm not going to try to do any more than what I've done because I don't want to risk damaging the cases. I think that's a testament to the cases themselves because obviously there's a fair amount of meat there. So let's take a look under the hood and see what it looks like under the cover. Actually, let's take this off first. Okay, that all looks pretty solid in there. Again, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and one of the things I like is the fact it's got an O-ring to help that filter seal, and I like the fact that's aluminum right there. See it? There's an aluminum kind of a bulkhead there. Now that's pretty cheesy. There's my first strike. That just popped right off of there. So I'm going to have to come up with a way of doing something with that cap. That shouldn't be too hard to put together, but that's something to look out for because if it's that loosely connected to the wire and you start having running issues, you want to bet it's going to be that spark plug wire. Bet you anything. So what have we learned so far? That it's fairly lightweight, that it got damaged in shipping. Looks nice. I mean, the fit and finish to this point in time, other than that spark plug wire, looks pretty good. The plastic looks nice. The handle looks nice. Spring assist start. You know, you can take or leave that. Sort of the old style chain brake paddle. But if it works, who cares? I'm going to guess this is another Zenoa copy. I really don't know. You know, kind of like a Red Max, Zenoa type style saw. But I'm not familiar enough with that line to really be emphatic on that. Okay, there's 2 more screws. So there's actually 5 screws which hold this cover in place. Okay. And to hammer that spark plug out, but you got to pull the spark plug in order to get the cover off. And it's the standard CDK that you typically see on the Farmer Tech stuff. You got the coil over here, wire to the kill switch right here, and I can see where you have a copper lead to the ground. Again, this is all aluminum or magnesium one, I'm not sure which. So that's pretty tidy inside there. I like it. So far I'm really liking the saw. Okay. I like the split cases, like a pro style saw. It looks to me like the muffler will be something we can modify. It also looks like that's a top end that comes right off. It's not a clamshell, I don't think. Nope, it's not a clamshell. So things like base gasket deletes and muffler mods and just the standard simple type modifications look like they're going to work on this saw. So right now, for the money, what I'm seeing, my first impressions, I'm really, really, really impressed. You know, this is kind of cheesy, but that's something we can certainly work around. So I think I'm going to put it back together. What's it got for anti-vibe? Rubber mounts and a spring. So it looks like there's anti-vibe rubber mounts here, here, here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's a spring down here, 5. And something down here, 6. So it's not like a Husqvarna, and it's not quite like a Still. It's some kind of a hybrid in between them, but it's its own deal. So I got to do something with this goofy thing, right? I guess the best thing to do is to put this through the way it's designed to, right? And then try to crimp that on there. Right? We got that. I don't know if it does like this. Yeah, I think it sits in like that. Yeah. See, I think that's what captures the rubber grommet. And I think that's also why, because the way it's capturing these rubber grommets, that's why it has these 2 screws right there, is to hold that case down while it bites into those things. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, by the way, I do see carb adjustment screws, high and low, down below. And it looks like screwdriver versus special stuff. That's good. So far, I am absolutely pleased to death with this thing. Okay, so that's back in there. This has got a hook underneath that spot right there, and this has to stay out of the way. So the cover actually bites on that too. There we go. The top cover, you can't forget this little tab kind of goes in first, and then it comes down like that, and then you tighten it down. Seems like it has pretty good capacity. Now I'm curious to see if that seals. One thing I wish it would have is a primer bulb, typical of these smaller saws. Oils, pumping oil everywhere. How do you beat that? Out of the box, that thing runs crisp. We're gonna have to see how powerful it is, but I like what I'm seeing right now. All right, so I gotta convert things over and wrap this clutch out, and it's pretty much a clutch, you know. And I have a hard time getting it back together. It kind of came out ugly, but gave me the opportunity. I'll put some grease on that bearing in there. This is the sprocket that came with it. I'm going to put this on it right here. We have chainsaw. Chainsaw. And yes, it oils. And I got a bar guard with it. That comes with it. It's kind of soft, but works. Back to the subject at hand, I want to show the fastest and easiest way to figure out what's going on with a 390 when it goes lean. So what we're going to do is get it fired up if I can, and then a can of brake clean is all I really need, assuming I can get it started. So let's see if this actually works, if I can get it even started, because this one here has got a fairly significant issue. That's it. So stopping that quickly when I shot the brake clean right underneath the manifold, it's one of two things. It's either the boot's ripped, which is fairly common, or it blew a base gasket out the bottom, which I've seen as well, and I really don't know which one it is yet. By the way, I've already said it a couple of times, but I'm really enjoying this. It's really doing a good job for me. Probably needs to get the batteries charged, because I've been using it pretty much non-stop for the last little while. I want you to look at this chain. And from the chain, you can probably figure out that this was a person who knows how to get everything out of what they have. It's a pro logger and makes a living with a saw. And the point here is, rather than waste any of the chain at all, they figured out how to sharpen it to get a reasonable cutting chain right down to the very last piece. And the bar has a burr, so we're going to take that burr off for him. Did I ever tell you that I like working on Husqvarnas? Well, let me clarify that. I like working on the 300 series Husqvarnas. I'm not really as much a fan of the newer ones, the 500 series. They're just a bit of a... They're a little bit of a pain in the neck for me, so... By the way, the 390 has that same little top hat that a 372 does. Really, a 390 is just like a big 372. It comes apart almost exactly the same way. Okay, what have we found? What we found, look at that. Base gasket blew out the side. You know, sometimes I wonder if progress is really progress. Because I'm seeing a wax buildup in this saw that I haven't seen in a long time. And they are now using the new Husqvarna XP, which is a full synthetic. He's mixing this, what he said was 40-1. And if you look, you'll see a wax buildup on the piston. And inside here it's a little waxy. So either I'm getting bad information, we're back to one of the other paraffin based, which I'm not a fan of, or the new Husqvarna synthetic is a paraffin based synthetic. And again, I don't really know for sure, so I hesitate to even put it in the video. It has a dry look and feel inside. Let me show you. That right there is kind of a sticky wax. And instead of having that film of oil, you got the kind of a waxy feel down in there. And they're kind of gummy. The synthetics I used to like are like the Bel-Ray H1Rs, which was an ester based. The MX2T from Mobile One. Now I had seen a brand, an off-brand oil that these people had used once before that had created that same wax film, and I had recommended getting away from it. I think the other lesson to this is, yet again, professional use saws have a tougher service life than the rest of us, right? And if you listen to some of the common wisdom out there, is you never ever use the 1194 style solutions on these pro saws. You have to use a base gasket. And I can tell you, in the 10 years that I've been playing this game with 1184, 1194 before that, I have never ever, and I can stress it over and over again, I have never ever, ever seen the 1184 or 1194 blow out the base. I've seen a lot of other branded glue gaskets fail, but I've seen a fair amount of stock OEM paper gaskets fail too, like on this saw. And so, yet again, to those people who make the case that glue gaskets are not the way to go, here we are looking at another completely stock OEM saw that had a base gasket failure. So I'm going to cut out a bunch of what I said, but the net is I prefer either a semi-synthetic or an ester-based synthetic over any of the wax-based synthetics, period. And looking into this saw is the reason why. It's not saying that the other ones aren't effective. It's just there's something disconcerting opening up a saw and seeing a lot of wax build up in there as compared to nice oil film. My humble opinion, and obviously since wax solutions are on the marketplace, there's plenty of others in places that disagree with me. That bodes well. Okay. Methinks that somebody tried to tune around a lean condition. Bet is it's quite rich. Leave it a little bit fat because it's a hot and humid day, and he's not going to touch that saw, so I'll bet you come fall it starts running better and better. I see, you know, 200-300 RPM change from this kind of season to the fall season, and another few hundred RPMs during the winter time. But starting out a little bit fat in the summer, knowing the operation, it'll be running just crisp come winter time. So stock, it should be set at about 13. I'm setting it at 12, a little over 12.5, and we'll just let it go. We'll see what it does. Let's see if it restarts on one pull the way it should. That there is a very healthy 390, and like I said, this is one of my favorite saws to work on. I just wish I was a younger man, because it'd be a hoot to run one of those too. It's just so big and heavy. I'm having a hard time as an old man rationalizing going through all the physical effort to run one of those damn things. Okay, what this is the old farm FS 110R steel, and we had to purchase the hedge trimmer attachment, and this thing has got hours and hours and hours on it. It's one of the best tools we've ever purchased. It's really all it took. Look at that. Look at that. It fit right on. Of course, it was designed to. So this might be really interesting. Let me line it up like that. Now again, this is a Farmer Tech pole saw attachment, and I don't know what their model number is. I really don't. Let me see if it tightens up a little better. It's biting. Look at that.